Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the seventh edition of India Affiliate Summit, co-presented by IMAI and V Commission, powered by Optimized Media, brought to you by Zapets Media in association with Trackia. Without any further ado, let's move on to the next presentation of the day on the topic of growth hacking for the sold store via digital marketing. Let me introduce you to our speaker, Mr. Sujoy Dutta. He's the Senior Vice President Marketing from the Sold Store. I would request all the delegates to keep posting their question in the chat box and we will address few selected questions at the end of the session. Over to you, Mr. Dutta.
Thank you, Shivani. Great to be here. Happy to talk to the audience today. Super excited to talk about this topic, and I think this is only going to get increasingly more important over the next few years. So without further ado, let me sort of dive into the subject of today's discussion, which is about growth and growth marketing. I'm personally not a fan of the phrase growth hacking because I think to me it's simply a slightly buzzy way of describing plain old profitable growth, something that's been a little bit out of fashion for the last few years. So I will be talking about how Soulstore goes about doing it and how we ensure that we drive both profitability as well as top line, which for us is essentially what hacking growth is, which is about delivering growth efficiently and profitably. Now, before going into the structure of how our marketing flywheel works, which is what I'm going to do over the next 12 odd minutes, before the marketing, it's really then the foundation of growth, pre-marketing, which is the first thing I sort of want to spend some time on, which for me and for us at the Soul Store are really three big things. First, of course, is the power of your brand. And this doesn't need to be a large brand. This could simply be power that comes through being memorable. It's about driving recall by being very distinctly famous for a specific thing. In the case of Soul Store, what we've built a really strong identity around over the last 8 years now. So the Soul Store is an 8-year-old brand. We started in 2013. In fact, I think we've been in India as an e-commerce player a few months before even Amazon launched in India. So we're of some vintage. But what we've done over the last several years is build this really differentiated proposition around pop culture and around fan merchandise. And that's sort of the first pillar, which is that memorability, because that's ultimately what helps you break clutter and get noticed the first time. And this is just almost a foundational thing that that you need to have and you need to build. Over the course of time, we have built this, and in this space is where you would typically see a lot of value add for something like affiliate marketing, specifically influencer affiliate marketing. The Soulstore itself has not done a lot simply because of our vintage. So we've been around since 2013. So of course, at the time, the influencer affiliate market was not particularly mature. And by the time that ecosystem developed, we had already built a really strong proposition around pop culture and fan merchandise. However, we do see going forward as we look at growth in the future, which would be more non-fan merchandise, non-pop culture based, we do see value to now start scaling up a lot of our influencer affiliate activities because it helps us build the brand. And really the one thing to take away from how a brand gets built is that it is a game of patience. It is the slowest burn of all of your customer facing activities. It requires time and it requires consistency. And that is where you can actually use, in my view, something like influencer affiliate marketing, because there you essentially have influencers who lend their credibility on specific pieces to your brand. So it's a way of accelerating that process. The second foundational piece, of course, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, is just the shopping experience, which is how easy is it to browse your catalog, how easy is it to make a purchase, how easy is it to complete a checkout, how reliable and trustworthy does your website feel, how heavy or not heavy is your app or website, so do things load quickly, do they load easily? So a million small things, and the degree of granularity that you can get into is endless. And of course, how much you choose to get into will be a function of your size and the bandwidth and the team that you have. But even if you're a owner-run small setup, the headline things when it comes to shopper experience should really be taken care of, because that can make or break an impression about you, which is just the basics of are my products easy to search? Are they easy to? Is it an easy intuitive flow from browsing products through to making a final checkout? And am I inspiring trust, which is important for a young brand, because the moment the website feels off, iffy, unreliable, unprofessional in any way, you're doing yourself a disservice, and we would be doing ourselves a disservice when it comes to building trust. And the last foundational piece is just the product experience. And in this, the quality of the product is obviously the hygiene, but it's also about just delivering consumer wow. And for us, it was about these little moments of delight. So I think our oft-repeated example is when we would send our merchandise. So for Big Bang Theory, for example, we would actually send a roommate agreement between Sheldon and Leonard along with the shipment. More recently, when we celebrated our 8th birthday, all shipments in that month went with a little thank you note. So it's just about these little moments of delight. And that translates through to our customer experience team as well. So even today, at our scale, right, where we're a 200 CR GMV organization, our CX team has layers and hierarchies. Our frontline CX folk are super empowered, which means that on the majority of CX queries that we get, we're able to resolve them in the first interaction. There's very rarely a need for approvals, for we will get back to you, for give us a day, etc., etc. Unless it's something really complex or really high risk, resolution typically happens in the first conversation, and that makes a huge difference to the consumer in a delicate moment where you can very easily swing between being really loved and being really hated by the consumer, because they're typically reaching out to you because they have some sort of concern. Now, these three things make the bedrock. Like, these are the necessary but not sufficient conditions for you to get on your growth hacking journey. When you have these three things, which is just the essence of how you present yourself to your customers, then you sort of start getting teeth in your marketing efforts, which is where you can then devote time and energy to delivering growth through marketing. And that's what we'll discuss next. So for us at the Soul Store, our basic credo when it comes to growth marketing is that growth should happen profitably. I mean, if I had to encapsulate everything we do by a simple philosophy or a simple ideology, it's that we should drive growth profitably. And that influences a lot of our day-to-day decisions, both large and small. And essentially what that means is our new customer acquisitions drive top-line growth, and our returning customers drive bottom-line growth. And as you can see on the slide, about half of our total business is driven through organic traffic. So that's where you generate healthy bottom line, which helps you fund your marketing spends to get new users acquired. And the reason we call it a flywheel is because that bottom line funds new user acquisition, and those new users that you acquire then keep replenishing the pool of your retained consumers. So it's a virtuous cycle or flywheel of new consumers adding to top line growth and becoming part of your retention pool, and then retained consumers adding bottom line and helping fund the next wave of user acquisition. The way we set it up, however, is that we are sort of unit positive from order one, which means even if a consumer does not come back to us, we're still net positive on that transaction. And that's really the magic of, for us, the magic of growth hacking. And when you talk about retained consumers, well, of course, remarketing media is part of our media spends. Our the CACs issue there are actually not too different from what you'd see on new user acquisition, right? Because your higher CPMs will often offset the improvements you'll see in CTRs and purchase to click percentages. So just spending media on remarketing is not what drives profitability, is not what drives retention. The real unlock of customer retention for us comes from organic traffic. That is what keeps the flywheel of profitable growth going for us. And therefore, what that has meant for us, I think over several years of trying and experimenting and failing and succeeding, I think two big learnings that we have come away with when it comes to delivering growth profitably and delivering growth at low spends, which for us is, as I mentioned, growth hacking. Two big learnings. Number one, when it comes to acquisition, sales, insane offers, insane cashbacks are not a must-have critical thing when you run an online business. It does not have to be wholly dependent on making the first sale at a loss. It is a choice you can make, but it's often seen as a default compulsion when it's an online business. And at least in our experience, that has not been the case. So even when it comes to things like sales and events, our sales strategy, our sale event strategy is actually much closer to what you'd see in the offline world compared to the online world. We run site-wide sales only a couple of times a year, typically in line with your typical end of season sales that you see between spring, summer, and autumn, winter. And beyond that, we run like category specific sales from time to time for like 1 or 2 days max. Typically, it's to drive velocity in categories where we're holding high inventory. So we're conservative when it comes to blowing up cash to acquire a consumer, because we're also conscious of the fact, and those of you who run D2C businesses would know this, we're also conscious of the fact that even the best performing, most hardcore loyalist sort of brands, you will invariably have a really leaky bucket of consumers. So even like the brands with the best retention strats would have anywhere from 30 to 50% of their user base not repeating, which means it's super important that when you acquire the consumer, even the acquisition needs to happen at a net positive, and then the retention is what fuels your future waves of growth. I think those fundamentals really are what are distilled in these two big learnings, which is, as I mentioned, in the first big learning, which is that a new acquisition does not need to happen just through crazy offers, crazy cashbacks. The second learning is that for this organic traffic, just a great product experience is not enough. It's a necessary condition. It is not a sufficient condition again. Simply because while your product experience might be loved, what you're also fighting against is not just their opinion of you. It's also consumers' cognitive miserliness. It's their sense of information overload. So they may enjoy the product experience, but that doesn't automatically translate to them thinking about you or them considering you the next time they are making a purchase in the category. So driving organic traffic also requires lots and lots of conscious effort beyond just advertising to them as a separate audience. So for us, the biggest driver of that is our membership program, where you get early access, you get better pricing, you get the priority shipping, etc. Beyond that, it's the almost boring and standard but super important gamut of app pushes, email alerts, etc., which drive a lot of our transactions. So over half of our transactions are through users who have at some point been interacted to by some of these what we would perhaps consider spammy pushes, but it makes a difference in getting them to closure. And in the last couple of minutes, what I'm going to quickly touch upon is what the future looks like for us. So two things really. We're ready to build a lifestyle business, which is beyond just pop culture and fan merch, for which we need strong lifestyle credentials and a wider product assortment. So we've already been on the assortment journey for the last few years. We sell many more categories. Our Suprema collection, one of which I'm wearing right now, is our single most popular category today. On the brand credentials bit, that's where there's a lot of work that's currently being done. And that's where, again, we sort of tie the conversation back and saying that when you build the brand, of course, you do your traditional brand marketing, which is your advertising. But what really will help us build credentials, and it's something we intend to scale up going forward, is working with, as I said, influencer affiliates, right, who lend their credibility to the brand, so that while we're famous for this one thing, we also then get trust, credibility for a wider gamut of categories, which is where we see growth going forward. And right, so that was a quick download on how we view growth marketing here at the Soul Store. And I think that was exactly in time. Cool. Shivani,
Sujoy,
if there are any questions, happy
if
to take
you would
them.
like, yes, if you would like, you can take up these questions as well in the Q&A chat box.
Hang on, let me just take a quick read. I have not seen it yet. Cool. A couple of questions, COD. Yeah, so we do have a higher return percentage on COD, but not dramatically higher. So we were profitable even on the COD side of the business. So we have standard controls, etc., in place, right? So if like similar, if the same phone number, the same email ID, etc., has like repeated cancellations, we generally put a block until we figure out if there's a problem there, etc., etc. And yeah, so I don't have a sort of magic bullet answer for your question. COD is, I wouldn't say a problem, but yeah, we do see higher return rates on COD, but not high enough for it to be a worry. We also have, again, about 2/3 of our transactions are actually not COD. So we've also done a fairly good job of incentivizing, excuse me, we've done a fairly good job of incentivizing users to use prepaid methods. So we, from time to time, run some sort of incentive inducement to do that. And okay, that was a COD question. There was a question on marketplaces. Again, on marketplaces, similar question. So our marketplace funda is very similar to our D2C funda, which is basically it needs to be net positive. So the way we spend on Amazon and Flipkart, whether it's on advertising or offers, after accounting for returns, is that we make sure that our organic sales drives bottom line, and our sort of paid sales, which are your paid placements on your search results, that drives top line. So it's the same basic structure, just done on a marketplace. Because their retention isn't what is driving bottom line. Your organic sales, which are people who just organically discover in Amazon, that's what drives bottom line. But the short answer to your question is, yeah, we handle delivery and refunds there. It's obviously a more expensive platform to do business on, but the bulk of our business is on D2C. So it's a hit we're sort of willing to digest. And seeing if any other large questions within the 80% acquisition budget, how much do you allocate to different platforms? So I can't share exact numbers, but we're bigger on Facebook than we are on not Facebook, simply because Facebook is just a richer medium for what is essentially a very visual design led business, right, which is fashion. And therefore we're partial to, I mean, I wouldn't even say Facebook, we're partial to Instagram followed by Facebook, just because of the more visual nature of the medium. Yeah.
Thank you, Sujoy. Thank you so much for your time. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners. Our title partner, V Commission, powered by partner Optimize Media, brought to you by partner Zapeds Media, and in association with partner Trackier. Registration partner, Value Leaf, digital growth partner, Microsoft Inmovate, global partners, Admitat and Velco Media. Our silver partner, Bitroid.io, mobile performance partner, Collectsin, and bronze partner, Cashkaro, and platform partner, Airmeet. Please stay tuned for other exciting presentations, and please don't forget to visit our expo booths. Thank you, everyone.
Cool.
Thank you,
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Saint.